This is Mere Anthony, or Manthony for short. He is a concept character I created as an observer to Anthony, my main OC, and represents the half of Anthony's life that he doesn't want to show to the world. This concept of having a mirrored version of a character was inspired from me listening to Mirrors by Justin Timberlake, especially with hearing the following lyrics. Now it's clear as this promise that we're making two reflections into one. It's like you're my mirror staring back at me. I'm looking right at the other half of me. Although the idea of having mirrored OCs came to fruition in the spring of 2023, the roots of Manthony are traced back to this art painting I made back in December of 2020. This painting was experimental because I was curious to see what would happen if I gave Anthony more of an emo vibe, designing him in more darker and more saturated colors versus the original Anthony design. This was one of my favorite paintings at the time and can be found on my DeviantArt with the title Hello Darkness, My Old Friend, which is a reference to a song lyric from The Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. But now we have reached into 2024, and looking back at this painting, I realized that there is lots of potential waiting to be scored with this, especially now that Manthony as a character is more fleshed out. Plus, I've been drawing humans for over 4 years now through self-teaching, so I believe it was time to finally take a second look at this painting. Here I have the original painting loaded into Clip Studio Paint. Now, there are numerous flaws in this painting that can be pointed out, but for the sake of this remastering, I'm going to highlight 3 key problems that I will look to improve on. The first issue with this painting is the inconsistent anatomy throughout the character designs. Now, one small glance at this painting will reveal that Anthony's arms are disproportional, with his right arm looking longer than his twin left. As for the remaining 3 character designs, they all suffer from having a lack of joints within their limbs. This is because back in the day, while learning how to draw humans, I only saw the limbs to be one continuous shape. In reality, human limbs are divided into smaller shapes, often intersecting at some pivot point, which is what I will reflect when I remaster this painting. The second issue that I'll discuss is the lack of shading throughout the painting. Looking at this painting, you can tell that the colors in the character designs look flat, lack any depth, and sometimes blend with other layered objects. The hood on Anthony's jacket is one of the most significant elements to fall victim to this flaw. The lack of shading will make the character designs confusing to look at. And by example of Anthony's jacket, you might be looking at the hood of a jacket or some uncanny anatomical feature. Adding some shading and even a few colored outlines will help minimize this unintentional blending effect. The background also suffers the same color flatness, where an attempt to make a 2.5D background was made, but ultimately looks more 2D due to a lack of shading. When I remaster this painting, a scenery change will help out with making the 2.5D effect look more convincing. The third and final issue that I want to address is the lack of a light source in the painting. Although I had an idea for this partition in the middle to be a light beam, I did not execute it as such in the final painting. As a result, the shadows are very inconsistent, and any shine that occurs do not match up where the supposed light should be shining. Another important piece to mention is that having the light source in the middle would cause light to diffuse into the background, which is something I did not consider into the final painting. With this knowledge of shading and lighting, the remastered painting should stick with at least one light source and have shading that reflects the emission of said light source. Now that I've highlighted what needs to be improved, let's cue the time lapse of my actual remastering of Hello Darkness, My Old Friend, which will be dubbed Sounds of Silence. So here's the progress after one day of working on the sketch. So far, the anatomy for the character designs look more accurate and consistent compared to the 2020 version. In terms of the posing of the two middle characters, I took inspiration from Basket Case Creature's attack on Anthony and Manthony. All is going well, except that I didn't come up with an idea for the background. But after doing a little moving around the sketches, I came up with an idea to have both of the OCs to be resting their palms along a street lamp, which will ultimately create the split effect. I let this idea of the street lamp cook while I worked on the line art and base coloring for all four of the character designs. At this point, I've worked on this painting for about 3 weeks now. I've successfully completed the line art and base coloring for this painting, but there was one tiny hitch. The idea I had with the street lamp being the centerpiece of the split effect did not go as far as I hoped. This is where I decided to go online to find some possible references to a split effect. I came across this image involving a tree, and this is when I came up with an even better idea, replacing the street lamp with a big tree. With this new idea, I replaced the scenery from being on the side of the road to being deep within a forest, and the ideas continue to pile up from there. Around this time, I decided to stream my progress on the painting on my YouTube and Twitch, and this is where I decided to give the two sides of the split some character. I chose Anthony's side of the forest to be more grounded with natural colors, and a sunset to boot, while Manthony's side of the forest got the treatment of dark grays and crimson similar to the artwork shown on the 21 Pilots album Blurry Face. In addition, I replaced the sunset on Manthony's side with an eclipse, which was an idea I got back when the total eclipse took place on April 8th. You will later come to see that I designate this eclipse to be the light source for the entire painting, because for Anthony's point of view, this would be the sun setting on the horizon. Now that the background is complete, I went back to work on the character designs, since I still had the facial features and shading to complete. You can see that while working on the facial features, I did a little bit of revising of the anatomy for each of the character designs to stay consistent with the 3/4 view and front view. So, after 1 month of on and off work, here's the final version of Sounds of Silence. I can tell that this is a step up compared to what I made back in 2020 and drives the point home that Anthony can occasionally see Manthony in the mirror, revealing a more darker and more saturated world behind it. Also, it is in Manthony's canon that only Anthony is able to see his own altered reflection, along with this altered reality. All in all, I can say that this painting deserves the title of being one of my new favorites to make. With that being said, I wanted to let you know that the purpose of making this video was to show you that you can improve in art, or just in any skill, if you acknowledge where you've made mistakes in the past and what you can do to improve them. I hope you all enjoyed seeing my overall process to making art like this. If you want to see the sources I used in this video, or if you want to know what kind of music I was using in the background, all these links can be found in the description. Other than that, I guess I'll just end the video with a gradual fade in of the old artwork to the new artwork.